Do you look at your mountain of goals and feel stuck?
Or have you already achieved great things and yet you know there's still more?
Then you've come to the right place.
We're here to offer practical tools and tangible strategies to change your mindset.
And challenge you to produce a life beyond the norm.
I'm Nate.
I'm Laura.
Welcome to the Transcendence Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Transcendence Podcast. Guys, we've been talking about self-awareness, and we wanted to start off with self-awareness in the very first episode. If you guys have been listening with us, if not, tune back into the very first episode, because it's so important to find out where you are and then determine where you're going and then build the path of how to get there. But it always starts about where are you at currently. So in that episode, we talked about some tools that are really that we utilize the most to actually find out where are we, what are we good at, what motivates us, what holds us back. And one of those tools was the Enneagram. We just got done a 10-week series on the Enneagram. The first one talks about what is the Enneagram, and then we went through the 9 different types. So if you guys haven't heard that yet, it'd be good to go back and listen after this episode on what is the Enneagram, because it's a very effective tool, and we go in great depth with it. Today, we're going to talk about another assessment, though, another tool that you can utilize called Strengthfinders, actually Strengthfinders 2.0. It's based out of a book called Strengthfinders 2.0. So the purpose of the Enneagram was to find out what your core motives are, what motivates you, what's your desire, what's your fear, how you react to certain situations, and all the details that goes with that. What the Strengthfinders purpose is to find out your talents. It doesn't actually find your strengths, so the name's kind of deceiving. What you find is you find what your talents, you find what you're naturally good at, and then when you know what you're good at, you can pursue those more and develop them into a strength. So yes, your strengths are the final outcome from this assessment, but it's after you invested time, invested energy, invested skills that amplify those talents to create them into strengths. So what is the idea behind finding your strength? See, this book talks about how we need to put more focus on emphasizing our strengths in our life rather than trying to fix our weakness. See, culture has it wrong. A lot of us grow up thinking that we need to fix our weaknesses, thinking that we need to be well-rounded, thinking that we need to figure out what your weaknesses are, overcome them, and then you'll be successful. When in reality, if you look at the most successful people, they found something they're really good at and took it to a whole nother level. And they pushed in and they did 80% of their time in their strengths. When you spend 80% of your time working on your weakness, you end up wasting a lot of time. Because if it's your weakness, it's your natural weakness, it's never going to be better than a little bit above average, where you can take what's already above average and take it to astronomical levels. So, you see this all across what culture teaches us, whether it be media, whether it be books, whether it be movies. It's always about the overcoming the weakness, and I think that's where we fail the most. I think if we really specialize ourselves, take our talents, emphasize them, you will have immense success. So in the book, they actually talk about a case study where they took different managers, because this is effective in your own life and this is effective in the teams below you. And, if you have employees below you or you're a director or a manager, they took 3 different types of managers. They did one that focused on the strengths, focused on building the team's strengths. They took one that focused on the team's weaknesses. And they took another group of managers that didn't address either one. They kind of just avoid talking to their team and just let them do their own thing. Now, one thing employees and managers never want is an employee or one of your team members to become actively disengaged. This is where they reach a point where they actually dislike going to work, or they don't like what they do. They're constantly looking for something else. They wake up in the morning frustrated that they even have to go there. That's something no employer, no manager, no team member ever wants for their people. Now, it's interesting. The managers that did neither, didn't address strengths or weaknesses, had a 40% chance that an employee will become disengaged, actively disengaged. 40%, that's 4 out of 10 people in your team that are going to become disengaged. You're going to lose almost half your team. So you need to be talking to your team. You need to be communicating to them. Now, generally, our general rule of thumb is to become well-rounded. So we tend to focus on the weaknesses. This is where most companies are at. Most of them realize they have to say something, so they choose to talk about the weaknesses and how they can fix them. If you focus on just the weaknesses, you'll have a 22% chance they will become actively engaged. So though it's almost half of the nothing at all, you're still going to lose almost a quarter of your employees. That's almost 1 in every 4. That actually adds up very quickly, and you're going to go through a lot of employees to find that other, 78%. Now, the interesting thing is when you focus on their strengths and you emphasize their strengths and find other people to fill the gaps of their weaknesses, and you just focus on how can I develop their strengths even further to make them a specialist in their field, you have a 1% chance that they're going to become actively disengaged. It drops all the way down to 1 in 100 employees are going to become actively disengaged. So that just shows the value of when you're trying to build your team rather than trying to fix your team. What kind of manager do you want to be? Do you want to be a builder, or do you want to constantly be trying to fix your team and you're going to lose a quarter of them? Or don't talk to them at all and you're going to resent your team, and they're going to feel that and you're going to lose almost half.
And I will also interject and say that, yes, this is definitely a great tool for the business world, but this can also be applied in your day-to-day life relationships, as a parent or as a spouse. Focusing on what your child does good at or what their strengths are, or focusing on the good that your spouse brings, it's going to set your mind up right, but it's also going to make a huge impact on your children and on your spouse. So when you can show them, hey, you're really good at that, the child's going to recognize that and they're going to hone in on that strength. Or a spouse might recognize, oh yeah, I am good at that. And they're going to lean into that strength, and it's going to make your relationship better, your communication stronger. Overall, they're going to become healthier as an individual.
Exactly. And especially for your spouse, they're your partner in life, right? Mm-hmm. So the strengths, if we had the same strengths, it wouldn't be much of a compliment to each other. It'd be us just doing the same thing. Whereas it's really good to know each other's strengths because it allows you to let that person flourish in right. opportunities that involve utilizing that strength the most. So one thing I don't want you to get confused with, though, is a lot of people, when they take this test, they find their strengths, they start putting attention on their strengths, which is the right thing to do, but they either avoid their weakness or use their weakness as an excuse then about, I'm not going to waste time doing that. Don't get this confused. You still need to be competent in your weaknesses. If one of the strengths is strategic, you're very strategic and problem solving. If you're an entrepreneur and don't have a team around you, and you can't afford a team because you're a one-man show, because you're a startup business, that's a lot of people out there. Or if you don't have a spouse yet and you have to manage life on just your own, or if your job requires you to use a little bit of all the strengths, you still need to be at least competent in all of them. You can't just use it as an excuse like, that's not my strength, I'm never going to fix that, oh well. You still need to be at least acceptable in each section, and then put most of your emphasis on your strengths. Like I said, most of us spend 80% of our time on our weakness. I'm saying spend 80% of your time on your strengths. There's 20% of your time that's still going to be dedicated to keeping your weaknesses up to par. Now, a good example of this in movies nowadays, and the books that actually talk about this, a lot of people have seen the movie Rudy. Rudy's a very inspirational movie. A lot of people look at this movie as motivation to overcome an obstacle. So the basis of the movie Rudy, a kid wants to play football for a college football team. He's not built for football. He's not good at football. So they let him on the practice squad. He practices every single day, his whole college career. And finally, his senior year, his whole college career, they didn't even let him suit up for games. He didn't get to wear his pads and helmet because he wasn't going to play. But his senior year, they finally let him play in one game. It was the very last game. They were already winning, so really no matter the outcome, they were still going to win. And then he makes a tackle, and it's this big thing, and he played a whole 15, 30-second play, and, he's the hero of the story. The protagonist overcame his obstacle. But when I look at that after reading Strengthfinders, and I look at how much time he spent on something he wasn't good at, for 15 seconds of fame that when it's over, there's no long-term growth in. What if Rudy would have spent 4.5 or 5 years, or however much time he spent there in practices, what if he would have invested all that into something he was already good at? Imagine how much success he would have then. It wouldn't be 15 seconds of fame. It would be a lifelong building of momentum and success. So that's just a good example of how we glorify almost the wrong process in a way. And it's not the wrong process, but it's the less effective process. Now, this test, when you take it, it actually has quite a few questions. I believe it's 170, 177, something like that, which sounds like a lot, but you only have 20 seconds to answer each one. And they're very simple questions. The reason why they want you to answer them in 20 seconds and they'll move on to the next question if you don't is because they want it to be your most natural response. They want it to be your natural instinct because that's going to give you the true outcome. If you have too much time to think about it, you start to think about what you want to become. You start to think about one little scenario that helps you be more of what you want to be. But if you answered in 20 seconds, you have to give an honest answer because that's the only thing you can answer that fast. It's really hard to lie in 20 seconds and create a story about something in 20 seconds. So they do that. It gives you enough time to barely read the question and answer it. But it becomes a lot more accurate that way. Now, what they do is when you take this test, the only way to take this test, hold on. Now, I want to clarify and say that we are not sponsored by Strengthfinders. This test does cost money. I'm telling you to purchase this and invest in yourself because I believe in it, not because we're paid to do this. They're not sponsoring us in any way. Now, there's two different ways you can do it. You can just go online and pay to take the test, or you can buy the book, which comes with a code to take the test for free. Now, it costs the same amount. So my mind is buy the book, whether it be Audible, digital, or a hard copy like we have here. If you're watching on YouTube, this is what the cover of the book looks like. But buy the book, and that way you have all the resource too, so you can study it for your different relationships, whether it be your friends, your managers, your coworkers, anything like that. And whenever you take the test, it'll give you, with that purchase of the basic test or the book, it'll give you your top 5 talents. Now, you can pay extra and see all 34 talents. There's 34 talents. They break it into 4 different, what they call domains or categories of different types of talents. And we're going to go over that here in a bit. But I want to encourage you, they charge extra so you can see all 34. I encourage you not to do that right away. Do the basic test first. Only see the top 5. This is why. Most of us have grown up in a culture where we already talked about how we focus on our weakness more and trying to fix it. If you look at your weaknesses and the ones at the bottom of the list too early, before you've created a new way of looking at it, before you created a new habit of focusing on the strengths, your natural instinct is going to be to look at those weaknesses, and then there's a greater chance you're going to use them as an excuse or avoid them altogether. And like I said, there's no way to avoid them altogether. So I encourage you just to do your top 5, because what this is going to do is it's going to give you practice on just focusing on just those top 5 strengths, because those are the most important ones. That's why they're your top 5. Now, once you become really good at your top 5 and learn how to maximize those and learn how to amplify those to their fullest ability, yeah, it might be beneficial to see numbers 6 through 10, and the only way to do that is look at all 34. But now you've already adapted an ability to focus on your strengths. That's a good time then to look at the rest. Don't do it too early because you're not there yet. I haven't even looked at all 34 yet, and I've been studying and trying to pursue my strengths for over a year now. And I still refuse to look at all 34 because I know my natural instinct is going to be to try to fix one of them. And that's not what I want to do. I want to continue to amplify my strengths. I want to continue to move forward with what I'm already good at. So we'll go ahead and start a breakdown. I want to go over the 4 different domains. Laura, why don't you tell us about the 4 different domains, which are the categories that kind of funnel in the 34 talents?
Yeah, so you have your executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. So your executing domain, they're going to be people in a leadership role. They're going to be disciplined and responsible. They are going to be the ones who work tirelessly to get the job done.
So the execution types, you're going to see them do really well at production style jobs. When you're applying this to your work field or your career path, anything that where you produce more, it gives you more, or you produce for a team, they're going to be your strongest players in actually getting the job done itself. And for your household and for your family, they're going to be the ones that a to-do list is a must on their day off.
Next is influencing. These people are great communicators. They're also usually really sought after by the public. They might be people that are great on social media. They might be people in the company that everyone just looks to because they are a good role model. they are definitely very good at communication, and they know that communication is key to achieving the goal. They take charge and they speak up. They are also really good at selling or persuading. And when I say selling, I don't necessarily mean sales, that might be, but they're just really good at selling whatever it is that they're just passionate about.
They're really good at presenting things.
Yeah.
They're really good at getting people to buy in. And you're going to see these are going to be the people that are going to make some of the biggest impact, or at least be the face of the impact. They usually have a lot of, especially executors behind them and relationship builders underneath them. But these are going to be the person that is the face of, a major impact in the world.
The next domain is relationship building. These people are naturally good at connecting with other people. It just comes natural to them to strike up a conversation, to just meet a stranger in the grocery store and just instantly have that connection. They know, in a company setting, they know how to build teams. When they're looking for their team to become more cohesive, they look for a person that's really good at relationship building. Because when you have a company that has great relationships, it's going to flow better. Everyone's going to get along. There's going to be unity for the ultimate goal. And they're also usually considered the glue or the bonders of an organization, or maybe even a family.
And they'll actually usually make the best friends, because they're not looking to build a shallow relationship. They're looking to build a deep relationship and really get to know people for the sake of honestly getting to know people and to make somebody else's life better. Right.
This doesn't mean that they're going to have a bunch of friends. It could just mean that they just have a couple good, deep, rich relationships. And the last domain is strategic thinking. They're analytical and they are futuristic in the way that they think. They keep the focus. So some people might get off task. These are the people that are super focused. They will analyze to make good decisions, and they allow others to kind of think outside of the box. They're going to encourage other people to think in a different way. And they are also the ones to inspire new ideas.
So what you see in how these different domains really work together is you have the strategic thinkers who present a new idea. You have the executioners that are ready to roll and ready to start implementing that idea. You have the influence to create buy-in at a very large scale. And you have the relationship builder that hold the teams together that are going to follow the idea through. So you can see how all of them are needed in life. And when we go through the 34 strengths, we'll go through them all and give you a brief description of each one. You're going to listen to these and be like, I want all 34 of them. When you listen to all 34 of the strengths, which we're going to go through them all and give you a brief description of all of them, you're going to listen to them and be like, I want all 34 of them. And that would be great. We'd be the perfect human walking around. But the truth is, when you focus on just your 5 and don't worry about the rest, or just make sure the rest are at least competent, you're going to be greatly successful, because you're going to pair yourself with people that are going to fill in those gaps, especially in larger teams. Now, you're going to see whenever you look at your top 5 too, there's probably going to be at least a pretty general theme. You're probably going to, most of your 5 are usually going to fall in only 1 or 2 categories. Very seldom are you going to have 1 out of all 4 domains in your top 5. Usually it's going to be a majority of 1, or maybe, kind of split almost in half, where you have 2 of one domain and 3 of another. Just because there's certain talents that work really well with others and are more commonly paired together in people. So as we get into the different talents, like I said, there's 34 of them. They're organized into the 4 categories or domains. So we'll start out with the strategic thinking first. Strategic thinking holds 8 of the talents. The first one is going to be analytical. Analytical people look at all the factors in every situation. They need facts. They're not going to believe anything unless you have facts to back it up. So if you're coming to present an idea to an analytical person and that's one of their talents, you better have done your research, or you're not going to get the buy-in. The other thing is they can usually see every single outcome that's going to come from a situation. So they're really important to have in a planning meeting. Again, most of their strategic thinking domain in general are really important to have in the creation of new ideas, like you said. The second talent that you're going to see in strategic thinking is actually going to be context. Context use the past to help bring more stability to the present. They're not ones that really look ahead. They're ones that review history to learn from it, because as the common saying goes, is that history repeats itself unless you do something different. They're the people that are going to research to see exactly what was done, and they're really good at seeing where people came from and where ideas started, and can really build momentum off of that. Now, on the contrary, the third talent in strategic thinking is futuristic. These are going to be the people that have big vision for the future. Their only reason to look at the present is, again, to build the path to what they see in the future. They're also very good at, exciting others with their vision, because their vision is usually a bigger impact than just themselves. The fourth talent that you're going to see in strategic thinking is going to be ideation. These are people that get fascinated by new ideas. They like to view the world from a different angle. They're always looking for new perspective. They're always looking for a way to improve or change something. They like to take the phenomena of life and really create an idea behind them, or create something that explains them. So the fifth talent is going to be input. These are going to be the people, when we say input, you're talking about what you input into your own mind, into your own self. They're going to be people that seek out an enormous amount of information, of artifacts, of ideas, even sometimes relationships. They want to gather as much information.
They're the consumers.
Yes, they like to gather and just gather as much as possible. The sixth one in the strategic thinking is the intellection. They like high levels of mental activity. They're very good problem solvers because they often ask questions to themselves. Now, what they're spending most of their time thinking about, and what they focus on the most, is often usually determined by some of their other talents. But they're going to be ones that are always thinking and always trying to challenge what they're thinking about. Number 7 is going to be learners. These are people that are always continuously trying to improve and trying to learn more. These are people that they're more excited about the process of learning than even the outcome of learning itself. They aren't even always concerned about the knowledge that they're learning. They just enjoy learning. These are people that love school.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Because school teaches you a lot of useless information. And I have a very strong opinionated on how our school system is structured right now. But learners don't care what they're learning, as long as they're learning something. It could be something that's completely irrelevant to their life, but they know they have more knowledge now, and that's all they care about. Number 8 in the strategic thinking is people that are just naturally strategic. When you're strategic, you're quick to determine patterns. You're quick to solve problems. You're quick to see a resolution that works. Not just quick to come up with a resolution. Anybody can do that. But your resolutions actually work. And by determining patterns really quickly, it usually helps develop that resolution. So the next domain I want to get into is the relationship building. And this is actually where I believe 3 of your top 5 actually fall into the relationship building category. So again, these are the people that are always looking to, build relationships with people. So there's 9 talents in the relationship building category. The first one is adaptability. These are people that tend to live in the present, and they quickly react to what life throws at them. They're not usually as proactive to figure things out. They know life is going to throw them a curveball. So they just wait for that curveball and then react to it then.
Adaptability was one of mine, and it is true. Life is so unpredictable, and I feel like these type of people can predict the unforeseen detours of life, because the reality is, as much as you can plan for the future, there's always going to be detours. There's always going to be hurdles and bumps to overcome, and I think these people are really good at just being ready for the punches.
So with that, Laura's, I believe it's your fourth strength or your fourth talent. So it's a very high level of adaptability in Laura's life. And, we've seen that come through countless times. So the second strength for relationship building is actually connectedness. This is a belief that everything happens for a reason. Everything has a specific meaning, and there's no coincidences in life. So the third strength in the relationship building section is actually the developer. Developers have a unique ability to see the little amounts of improvement. They actually, when they view something, they see the potential something has or someone has rather than where they're currently at. So they can see where their need for improvement is and how to get them to that full potential. Now, the fourth strength of relationship building is actually your fifth strength. It's your number 5 is empathy. So this is the ability to actually put yourself in the shoes of others and view life from their lens, and sometimes even feel their emotions, like physically feel their emotions. We're going to talk in a couple weeks about, understanding our emotions, and part of that is feeling where they're at in your body. And sometimes when you're hearing things, you can actually feel that emotion with that person.
Yep. I will also say, too, going along with this, I definitely can feel something as if it's my own. When I learn about someone going through a hard time, I can almost feel it as if it were my own situation. But I will also say, too, that this type, I read a little bit about it, too, beforehand. They're really good at sensing the emotions of other people. And I can notice when someone's energy has shifted.
So the fifth strength of the relationship building section is actually going to be harmony. And this is actually, Laura, this is your number one strength. So this is the thing that you're actually best at, is seeking areas of agreement, avoiding conflict, which is very funny because as we talked about the Enneagram, I'm an 8 and a challenger, and I seek out conflict. Like I will create conflict if there's none. So it's just so funny how it balances each other out, and how you're always looking to seek agreement and always want to bring harmony, to a group of people or to a community of people.
Yeah. I'll say too, if someone has a different opinion than mine, I still want to find that common ground. And it's okay that your views might not be the same as mine. I think another thing is with 6s, they are really good at playing devil's advocate. So even though they might have their morals, their views, their beliefs in place, they're still able to view someone else's and go, okay, well, why do they believe that? What is their reason for thinking that's the right way? But they also believe, too, that everyone should keep their opinions in check. Just because you have a certain opinion doesn't mean everybody else has to have that opinion. It is an opinion and not a fact. And I think that's a really good thing to make note of.
If this is your first time tuning in and you haven't been with us, and this is your first episode you're listening to, we're throwing out these numbers, 6s and 8s, and that refers back to that other series I talked about in the beginning, the Enneagram. So if you want to learn more about that, make sure you go back and listen to them after this podcast. Now, the sixth strength, when you're talking about relationship building, is actually the includer. So they make an effort to include everybody. This is a person that you want to be in charge of the guest list so you don't forget somebody, because they're really good at making people feel like they're part of the team and making sure they don't leave people out of the team. And the next strength in relationship building is individualization. These are people that are able to see people for their uniqueness. They're able to appreciate that everyone's not the same. They're also very good at determining what person is going to fit the right role, because they can see someone's unique strengths, their unique weaknesses, and see people as different as we should, because everyone's unique in their own ability. We're all equal but different. And these are the people that can recognize that the most. Mm-hmm. Number 8 in relationship building, or the 8th strength in relationship building, is positivity. Obviously, these people are very energetic and very enthusiastic. They like to take negative things and either avoid them or put a positive spin on them, because they don't really want anybody to feel any kind of negativity, and they like to keep the vibe in a group, in a team, in a family, in just that room very positive and moving forward. Now, the last strength in the relationship building section is going to be the realtor. The realtor actually enjoys really deep relationships. They enjoy connecting with people at way more than just a superficial level or just to get to know somebody. They want to really understand everything about that person. They enjoy working with those people that are close to them, especially on one common goal, because they like to develop deep, like large amounts of trust, and that deep trust with someone. So they enjoy working with those people too. You're going to see that they're going to be the ones that try to spend time with people outside of work, because they feel that if they work with someone, they also need to really understand that person. Now, next, we're going to get into the influencing domain. The influencing domain holds 8 different talents, and actually 4 out of 5 of my talents come from the influencing domain. And that's another reason why I was so excited to start this podcast, is because it allows me to influence a larger number of people at the same time than just the community of people I have in my personal life.
And that's a good thing to make note of, is to utilize your strengths, find opportunities, find ways to take your strengths and maximize them.
So I can influence the people in my life and my community, but that scale of people only goes so large. With this platform, the opportunity is endless. It's infinite, and right. we can continue to scale. So the first one is going to be the activator. The activator are people that turn thoughts into action. They don't like talking about ideas. They like just doing them. And they like finding a team immediately. When you present an idea to them, they've already started the next hour. They're not even waiting till the next day. Now, sometimes activators may jump into things too quickly, but they'd rather jump in too quickly and figure it out than waste time and miss an opportunity. Now, the second strength is actually third on my list. It's my number 3, and that is command. Command is people that are not afraid to take charge. They actually prefer to be the one that's in control of the team or the leader of the team, and they hold a very strong presence through situations, through groups. A lot of people will look to them naturally as a leader without them usually even trying. They're not someone that boastfully stands up and say, hey, I'm the leader in this situation. They're just the ones that aren't afraid to state their opinion and really move forward with it. So the third strength of the influencing category is actually going to be communication. These are people that can speak their ideas very clearly. They're very good at putting their ideas into words that are very easy to understand, that everyone gets the concept, they paint the full picture, and there's usually not a whole lot of questions after someone's done presenting something. Now, the fourth strength is actually my number 1 strength, and that's competition. These are people that thrive off of creating competitions. They are constantly comparing themselves to others. I can excel greatly at something and achieve something great, but if I didn't do it better than somebody else, it still doesn't feel the same. And they do competitions to win. They're not playing any games just for fun. It could be as serious as a national championship for the NBA, or it could be as simple as backyard volleyball or cornhole. We are in it to win it. And that's all that we're there for. And that's actually my number 1 strength. So I've utilized this, and the way I've really adapted this is I'll create little competitions in my day-to-day. Obviously I'm a general manager of a car dealership, and, I'll create little competitions between me and other coworkers of, who could sell more of this or who could do more of this and who could accomplish more of this in a day, because it just pushes me to get to that next level. And, I see it in a healthy sense too, where, I'm not going to be down or I'm not going to badmouth someone that wins. If I don't win, it pushes me to work harder. Mm-hmm. The fifth strength falls actually number 4 on my list. This is the maximizer. So a maximizer likes to take things and make them better, but they're very specific in the way that they do it. I never want to take something average and make it above average. That doesn't excite a maximizer. What excites a maximizer is taking something that's above average and making it superb. The Strengthfinders concept is perfect for a maximizer because they want to know what their strengths are. They want to know what somebody else's strengths are and make them better. That's just their natural instinct. And that's why I draw my attention so greatly to this book and to the concept behind this book and to this assessment and this tool, is because I'm so excited to take what I'm already good at and make it better. So the sixth strength of an influencer is going to be self-assurance. These are people that are very confident in their own decision-making. They're very confident in their own ability to get things done, and oftentimes don't look for a lot of counsel. Now, obviously, they know if they're not an expert in something, they may need some counsel, but they usually don't wait around to make decisions because they're pretty confident in whatever their gut instinct is, they roll with it. The seventh strength of the influencing domain is actually my number 5. So this is also in my top 5. It's significance. People that have a significance as one of their talents are looking to make a bigger impact. Again, that's another reason for the podcast, is to make a bigger impact. Like we said, it's another reason for the podcast is to make a bigger impact. Like we said, these people are often very independent, but they prioritize what they do based on how much impact it makes at a larger scale for the community that they know and the community around them. The 8th strength for the last strength in the influencing domain is going to be woo. Now, some of you probably have no idea what woo means. You can Google it, but in this sense, it's about the talent of winning people over. You have a really good You have a really good ability to enroll people in whatever it is you're doing. People tend to like you. You're really good at, breaking the ice with new people and really getting a quick relationship built. Now, the last domain is going to be the executing domain. The executing domain is the last domain we're going to talk about, and it holds the last 9 strengths. These are going to be people that like to execute the ideas built by others or by themselves. The first executing talent is achiever. This is actually my number 2, so it's pretty high up on my list. But these are people that like to keep busy. They like to work hard, and they like to work for long periods of time. They like to be extremely productive and get things done, very task-oriented. Number 2, the second strength in the executing domain is going to be the arranger. They like to maximize productivity, and the way that they do this is properly placing different pieces or people in a process that maximizes efficiency and maximizes production. The third strength of the executing domain is going to be belief. These are going to be people that have a very strong belief in their core values. Their core values are often unwavering, and they usually base their entire life around these core values and don't ever deviate from them, which is pretty impressive. The fourth strength is going to be consistency. These are going to be people that show up the same way every single time. They're going to show up with the same amount of energy. They're going to show up with the same amount of work ethic. They're going to show up with the same amount of knowledge and gaining the same amount of knowledge through and throughout. They're very consistent, as obviously the strength is titled. The fifth strength in the executing domain is actually, Laura, this is your number 2. This is deliberation. This is someone who takes decision-making very seriously. They anticipate obstacles that are going to arise, and they want to be very careful on the way that they make a decision.
Yep. On the website for the Strengthfinders, one of the 2 words that they describe right at the beginning for this type is careful and private. And I feel like those are 2 things that are like dead on for me, because Nate knows I'm a very private person, and I'm also a very careful and cautious person as well. So definitely hits the nail on the head.
And what gets me in trouble a lot is I'm not a private person. So I'm an open book. I'll tell you anything you ask me. And sometimes Laura will get frustrated at that. But it definitely shows, when you're careful and private, it's because they don't want to share too much information before making the decision, because they also want to, make the best decision. And sometimes the slower approach is better. And there is a true talent in that, and risk analysis and making sure you're making the right decision before jumping into something.
And sometimes that can stem from just wanting to gain trust before being an open book.
The next strength in the executing domain is going to be discipline. These are going to be people that like structure, and these are going to be people that, their world is really described on the order that they create in their world. They're also very routine based, and like to create routines because it helps them stay in line. It helps them keep working on what they need to be working on. The seventh strength is going to be focus. These are people that are really good at taking direction, executing throughout, and making any corrections along the way so they don't deviate from a path until they reach their outcome. They're really good at staying on track, and they're really good at being one track minded. And again, like I said, not really deviating at all. The eighth strength is going to be responsibility. These are people that take ownership in what they do. They're not afraid to take responsibility, good or bad. They will take it. They'll take the credit when something goes really well, and they'll take the fault if something goes really bad. They know the decision is theirs, and they take full responsibility for it. The last strength we're going to go over, number 34, and the ninth one in the executing domain is actually, Laura, this is your number 3. It's restorative. These are people that are really good at finding things that are wrong and fixing them. They're really good at finding, a problem in someone else's life, or a problem in a process, or a problem in a company, and then creating a resolution for that. What you got to watch with the restorative is what we talked about in the beginning. They want to find their weaknesses and try to fix them. And that's not what this assessment's about. This is about finding your strengths and moving forward. So if you are a restorative strength, if that's one of your talents, be careful not to apply that in this setting or on yourself for that purpose. It is good to find problems in your processes. It's good to find problems in your routines, but it's not good to just focus on weaknesses all the time. Because sometimes, like I said, you can focus all your attention on your weakness and it may be never that much better than average.
On the other hand, there are people that know how to spot a problem, but they don't know how to find a solution. So these people are really good at finding solutions, which is really good to have in a business setting. That's really good to have in a family dynamic, even in a marriage. They're going to be really good problem solvers.
So Laura, now that we went through all the strengths, we went through the domains, I hope you guys have a better understanding as to, what all the different talents really are. Give us a way to start applying these talents and how to emphasize these talents in our life.
First, I'll say that sometimes we view strengths as black and white, or we have them or we don't have them. But when we talk about strengths, there's your known strengths. They're natural or realized. You realize that you have them. And then there's the unknown, the hidden, the unrealized. And so what this is going to do, it might actually show you, oh, I didn't realize I was that good at that. Because, even Nate, last night when we were taking the test for me, we didn't realize that one of my strengths was empathy, because I'm not naturally someone who looks at the underdog and feels bad for them. But I'm really good at feeling someone's pain. So there is a difference. As far as weaknesses, there's going to be the weakness that you're not good at, of course, and drains your energy. And then there's also going to be learned behaviors. These are going to be the things that you might be good at, but they still drain your energy. And that's something that you need to watch out for, because if you are putting your energy into something and trying to maximize something, but you're not feeling fulfilled and it's not getting to where it needs to be, it's actually going to get in the way and hinder you.
The other thing to keep in mind is you never want to confuse talents or non-talents with skills and skills that you're not good at. Skills are something that you learn and develop over repetition and over practice. Like let's say a professional athlete, they've developed a skill in that sport.
Right.
That's not a talent in that sport.
That's good.
Their skill may be able to amplify their talents, and that's what we really want to do. We want to find skills that we can train and practice and perfect that amplify and utilize our talents, but the skill itself is not the talent. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're really trying to figure out your different talents.
So some advice we'd like to offer is, first ask, how can I apply these? Once you take the test and once you see your top 5, how can I apply in the day-to-day? How can I utilize this in my work? How can I utilize this at home in my family? How can I utilize this in my relationships? The next way is to seek ways to improve or to nurture those strengths frequently. The other thing is to share your strengths, because your strengths are meant for other people to benefit from as well, not just you. And the other thing is to organize and plan. Be strategic. Use your strengths intentionally use them in mind intentionally. And then lastly, once you've done all this, I would encourage you, practice a daily reflection. And that doesn't mean you have to sit down and journal or anything like that. It could just be taking a pause at the end of your day just to analyze, how did it go? Give yourself some examples. Okay, how did I utilize my strengths today? How does it feel when I utilize my strengths? Was there an area where I could have utilized my strengths, but I didn't? Those are really good tools to really help you apply your strengths. Because just like I talked about earlier, there are some strengths that you have, and then there might be some that you're just now discovering. And so utilizing all of them together is going to maximize you, because high performers maximize their strengths.
The other thing I want to encourage you on is don't look at these strengths and say, what job is right for me based on these strengths? That's not the purpose of the strengths. The purpose of the strengths is for you to apply these to your everyday life. Yep. And yes, like I said, certain skills may amplify that strength more, and there's certain jobs that use those skills that you may promote faster in. But the idea is not to find a job that uses your strengths. The truth is you can use these strengths anywhere you go. You can use these talents anywhere you go or in anything that you do. It's just a matter of, do you know them or not? Mm-hmm. So guys, take the test. Like I said, take the basic test. Do not look at all 34 results, or you're just going to get yourself in trouble. After a year or two of really pursuing your strengths, then maybe if you want to know maybe your 6 through 10 or, your 6 through 8 or the ones that are just above that top 5 or below that top 5, then you can do the full test where you see all your results. But don't do it too early. You're going to get yourself caught. You're going to get yourself caught looking at the weaknesses. So we'll put a link in the description straight to the test and one to the book. I recommend getting the book if it's the same price. At least you have a resource in hand that goes over all of them.
Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. We hope that you've learned something new, that you feel challenged, and are inspired to live a life beyond the norm.
If something in this episode stuck out to you, be sure to screenshot the podcast, post it on Instagram, and tag us in it. Let us know what captivated you.
And speaking of Instagram, we would love to connect with you and let you be the first to know about our new episodes and exciting updates.
If you found value in this podcast, be sure to leave us a rating and review. This will allow us to expand our reach and let others know that they can benefit from this podcast as well.
We appreciate you spending your time with us, and we can't wait to be with you again soon.
Join us next time as we continue to live a life beyond the norm.